Right, so thank you, Orekwamfo, for bringing us the sports and the conversation about Melo and the expectations that we have of him ahead of tomorrow as the Black Stars encounter Zimbabwe in the World Cup qualifier. And by the way, happy birthday in advance to you, Orekwamfo. It's Oreku's birthday tomorrow. So let me just get that out of the way. And let's get on with the conversation. So it's about the MMDC confirmations that's been happening across the country. Some people have sailed through. Others are having quite a tough time. So it's turning out that getting nominated for the president, by the president for the MMDC position is just one of the hurdles, and it's never a fait accompli. Securing the approval of the assembly happens to be the main challenge that many are having to go through. It has been smooth for some. Elizabeth Saki, and congratulations to you for being Accra's first female mayor, even though it's become apparent that there's quite a lot that goes on behind the scenes with a lot of money changing hands. Let's just get on to Zoom and speak with our correspondents who have been monitoring the confirmations across the country. We're starting in the Upper West region with Rafiq Salam. Hello, Rafiq. So we know that there's been quite a bit happening. Some people have gone through, have sailed through, and have been confirmed. Others, well, not quite. I would want us to start, first of all, with the report we put out yesterday about two people collapsing. Later, we reported that one had died. It turns out that that's not quite the case. So I'd want us to go back to that, and let's address that before we talk about the others.
Actually, Israel, what transpired at Wuchao, not many supporters of Ali Bukhari will not like to remember that very day because he was sure that he was going to carry the day, and then also it turned out that it was a total failure or rejection on his part, and that resulted in the two of close relatives of his collapsing and were rushed to the Warwick District Hospital. But as we speak now, they are in good health and have been discharged from the hospital, and they are currently at Busa and Naha, respectively.
All right, so the person who we had indicated had passed on apparently didn't happen to have anything to do with these two.
There was a death at Naha where the nominee hails from, and that happens to be an old woman over 100 years, but it's related to the nominee, but has nothing to do with the election that was done at Wuchao.
All right. So how many people in all are we looking at have been nominated for the Upper West region, and how many have sailed through so far, and how many more are we expecting?
In the Upper West region, we have 11 MDCEs. And so for now, for the records that the Upper West region minister and his team are having, they have gotten 6 wins, making it 6 confirmations. And then 2 will have an opportunity of having another bout of elections or confirmation. And then also 1 totally rejected. Sorry, the wins are 8. And then we have 2 that are going to go back to the assemblies for another part of confirmation, and also 1 totally rejected for now. So you have Nandom, Lamuse, Wa, Dibia, that's the Shima Bure Isa district, Wa East, they have Sesala West and Sesala East. And so these are the 8 municipal and districts that have been confirmed. And 2, Jiroba, and then also Laura, there will be another date for them to go to the assembly to decide their fate, whether they will be confirmed or not. But in the case of the Wa West, Ali Bukhari, who happens to be the Upper West Region's Communications Director of the MPP, according to the minister and also the EC, it was total rejection, and what they need to speak with the president for the next line of action.
All right, thank you very much, Rafiq. It looks like the Upper West region has done quite a good job. 8 out of 11, that's quite impressive. But yes, we'll be looking at the other regions. We also have the central region to look at. But we will be analyzing all of that. We have Frederick Ejakun, who is with the Local Government Institute, and he, as well as Amon Kote, and together we'll be analyzing what we're getting there, what we're picking up from all these regions. But let's go to Richard Kojo Nyako. Richard, we know right now the very iconic scene of having the regional minister go on her knees to beg the assembly members to vote. It turns out that they still rejected the MCE. What's the very latest on that?
Well, so that happened in Cape Coast and in other parts of the region where she's been touring. So wherever the confirmation is done, the regional minister is present together with other party functionaries and other ministers as well. So they go there, they judge with the people before the actual voting takes place. But what happened in the Cape Coast Metropolitan Assembly was that there seemed to be a lot of interested parties in that particular place. They cited reasons why they are doing that. So when the DCE, the MCE nominee failed to secure the 2/3 votes in the first round of voting that was done, it became imperative that the regional minister would step in. She did not do that alone. She went there with the transport minister, Mr. Samuel Boateng, and then Madam Ophelia Kwansahe for the MP for Mfantsman. So they were part of the people that were there. So she actually knelt down to beg the assembly members that this time round, do not vote against the president nominee in the interest of the development of Cape Coast. But the people went ahead to vote against the president's nominee. And so that has been the remarkable thing that happened in the Cape Coast Metropolitan Assembly. That particular night, around 11 a.m., at 11 p.m., we were told that the president had renominated the MCE again. And so they wanted the third round of voting to be done, but it faced some stiffer opposition. And so they had to adjourn it till Monday. So Monday, there would be that kind of voting. That would be the third in the series after Mr. Ernest Arthur has been nominated. But there have also been some interesting development there. Yesterday, we saw that some concerned assembly members and Israel, when you get to the assembly, practically, you will know that it is partisan. So it's something that is not written, but they have NDC caucus in the assembly, they have the MPP caucus in the assembly. So those who, the concerned assembly members, they were mainly the NDC assembly members who said that the monies that were handed to them by the president nominee was what they have collated, gathered, and then they have put in a brown envelope. The money was given to them about a week ago. We heard, and there were speculations that 3,000 Ghana cedis were given to each assembly member that belonged to the NDC caucus, and then 2,000 Ghana cedis was also handed to the assembly members that belonged to the MPP caucus. But it turned out that the second round of voting, other monies were given. So we do not know whether it is the 3,000 that they were handed the very first time that they say they are returning, or the second round of voting, the monies they were given that they say they are returning. So a lot of issues come up because they had kept the money for more than a week, and they say that they are returning at this point in time. So yesterday they came together. They are about 24 or 25, and then they put. So we do not know actually who they handed the money to, and they did not disclose the amount of money in that particular envelope, Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Richard Konyonyako. But I mean, that was quite a story, having the assembly members come together to say they're handing over or handing back monies that have been given to them. It clearly shows that money changed hands. The money is being used to influence the votes of these assembly members. I'll go to Ina Thalia Kwansa, who is reporting for us from the Western region. Ina, so do you also have stories about money changing hands and people taking monies and saying that they're still not going to vote for the nominee?
Well, Israel, yes. So the first one I would want to touch on is in the Western North region, Joaboso to be precise, where after voting, the president's nominee could not pull two-thirds of the majority votes. And then supporters of the New Patriotic Party allegedly attacking assembly members, demanding that they pay back monies they had given to them. According to these supporters, they gave these assembly members monies ranging from 1,000 to 4,000 cedis. But at the end of the day, they refused to vote 100% for the president's nominee. Israel, it took the intervention of the police to save these assembly members who were able to drive them to the Joaboso Police Command for safekeeping until sometime before these assembly members were left to go to their various homes. Another incident is that of Shama district, where an assembly member for the Shama Etifido came out boldly that yes, his colleagues took 2,500 prior to the election. So they demand that they bring back these monies. But then the presiding member also came out and said that no assembly member took any money from the president's nominee. So these are the two allegations that has come out in the Western region and the Western North region.
Now, Ina, so how many have been approved so far for the region?
So far, we have 9. That is Ahanta West, Mpoho, Amenfi East, Amenfi West, Amenfi Central, Elembele, Nzema East, and the Efia Kwesiminti Municipal Assembly. This morning, there's going to be a confirmation at Jomoro, and there is only 1 to go. So when we add this morning's on to it, there will be 10 yet to be confirmed. And then that of Shama, which he didn't go through, it is estimated that on Monday, there is going to be the voting for the confirmation to see if they are going to give him the nod on the second confirmation voting.
So how many in all, and how many have made it through?
Yes, so in all, we're expecting 11, but 9 has made it through.
All right. Thank you very much. And I'm coming back to you, Richard Konyaku in Cape Coast. So for you, the Central region, I also want to know how many do we have in all, and how many have made it through?
So Israel, we have 22 assemblies, but now they have approved about 10 of them, and so we have about 12 more to go. Today, there will be some of them, about 4 of them that will come up for the confirmation voting, and so that is what we do have. But Israel, the Asan South district was also one interesting place. They rejected the nominee in the first confirmation voting, and then yesterday, they slated yesterday for that. But they realized that 15 of them, they gave them a different venue other than the venue that the confirmation was going to take place. So today, they say they are heading to the law court to file the process to nullify whatever took place. They went there, and it emerged that there were some security persons that were at the gate. They prevented them from entering, even though they said that they are elected assembly members, legitimate ones, and they didn't allow them. And so it happened that Madam Fisher Emisantrakwa, the government, the president nominee, went through, had 21 votes out of the 21 votes, and so he secured 100%. But the first voting that was done, she had 21 out of the 36 votes vote cast, and so the minus 15 people, she went through and had 21 over 21. So it was quite an interesting spectacle at that place. You saw that they slaughtered a sheep. They also had crates of eggs and then a schnapp, and then they were invoking curses on the president nominee, the district police command, and then the electoral commission for perpetrating such an injustice against them, because they say their electoral areas were expecting them to take part in the confirmation voting, but it turned out that they had tricked them, and then only for them to prevent them from accessing the hall where the voting was ongoing.
All right, thank you very much, Richard Kojonyako, and to you, Natalia Kwanza, and to you, Rafiq Salam. as well for all the insights that you're sharing and the updates you're giving us. Let's now have the conversation with our analyst, Frederick Ejakun Odro. He's a Dean Studies and Research Institute of Local Government Studies. Thank you very much. And we also have Amon Kote, who has been involved in local governance for a really, really, really long time. Thank you to you both for joining us for the conversation. I want to start with you, Frederick Ejakun Odro. So we've seen a number of these things happening. It's not new. They've been happening all the time. But do you get the sense that things are getting a lot worse and we're seeing a lot more money being used to influence or getting involved in the process?
Absolutely. I think over the years, the people were not bold to come out openly to say, I took or received, I gave or I received bribes for electing MMDC and MMDCE. However, these days, people feel entitled that indeed I'm an assembly member. So if I have to vote for you, it doesn't matter your competence, doesn't matter whatever I want to do, I'm going to collect the money from you. And people are now, even on air, radio, TV, admitting that we took so much. Some will claim we were expecting so much and it didn't come. So there are so many issues to it. But I think what we need to also emphasize that this is plain corruption. It is bribery. The giver and the recipient are both guilty of this criminal act. And we should do whatever it takes to weed this canker out of our local governance system.
I'll come to you, Amon. Do you also believe that this is, outright corruption, or you would want to say that, well, this is an incentive and not necessarily buying the votes? Hello, Amon Kote. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, Israel.
Okay, so what do you make of what appears to be the increasing monetization of the process?
We have in a way corrupted the whole local government system in the country, and the effect is what we are seeing. Previously, when the president nominates someone, the assembly, by the standing orders, the assembly shall form an ad hoc committee to vet the nominee. It is because the members must be part of the decision making. So that was written in the standing orders. Come 2019, the standing orders have been amended. And now we don't have the assembly members interacting with the nominee before the elections. When an ad hoc committee of the assembly is formed, it is formed within the framework of activities of the assembly. So you have the coordinating director and other members being part of that ad hoc committee to vet the nominee. They will want to know his technical knowledge, they will want to know his human behavior, they will want to know his financial management, they will want to abreast themselves with why the president nominated the person. Then they inform the General Assembly, and then they vote on him. But we have taken away this opportunity, window of opportunity for assembly members to be part of the decision making. So now the result is, well, they have to wait till the election day, then the member comes with a piece of note, read it to them, and then they go and vote. Some on their own invite assembly members into their rooms, their houses, or whatever restaurant to go and meet and then they, do what we always do, item 13, and then after that, some envelopes are given. So we have corrupted the system ourselves.
Okay, so the
And
corruption,
now,
Kote, the corruption has happened, as you're indicating, but this corruption predates the 2019 days, doesn't it?
Well, it is now becoming so obvious. It is becoming so in the open. Previously, yes, people, so far as I'm concerned, I have been an assembly member before. I presided when Ofed Akun was elected into office. There was nothing like that. I did not receive any money from him or from any other person. But we voted for him. I presided over his elections. So I don't see where the previous issues comes in. Because
Amon, you may have presided over the process, but would you know if maybe on your blind side, the assembly members had been influenced?
I was an assembly member myself, and I'm saying that I did not receive anything.
Is that to say that the corruption hasn't been part of it?
It could have been part of it, as we all know what is happening now. But I'm saying that the spirit behind the assembly members being part of the vetting is very, very paramount in this discussion. Because, yes, the president has done the nomination, but the real appointment resides in the hands of assembly members. So if the window of opportunity given them has been taken away, now they are left with what? Okay, you want to be the MCE. Let's play a game. And this is the results that we are reaping. So I am not surprised. Some people have even taken more than 5,000 and still decided to reject their nominee. So whether the person has the technical knowledge, his human behavior is on top, he's in there, he has some good pragmatic strategies to assist in helping the district, nobody cares. All what we want is give us something and then we accept you. It's ridiculous.
All right, Mr. Odro, would you also say that it has to do with this amendment where they've taken away the power of the assembly members to vet the nominees? Would you say that's the reason we're seeing this open display of moneycracy, for lack of a better word, of the local governance process?
I don't see how that can be the situation, because as Mr. Kote said, this new model standing orders came into being just last year, 2020, and the challenge of the bribery taking place has been with us. At least I can trace it as far back as 2001. It's about 20 years ago. So I can't see how something that came up just last year can account for something that started over 20 years ago. So the real challenge is not to do with a vetting process. In any case, besides what happened in the 1988-89 when the process started and the early 1993 thereabouts, this process of vetting nominees has not been happening. I will be happy for anybody to tell me from the 2000 up till 2017, before we got into this level, where any assembly actually conducted that level of some form of interview or whatever we want to call it. So the real issue, from where I sit, is coming from the fact that if you put power in the hands of too few people to select leaders, you have this tendency of people making some of such demands. I mean, take it into our political parties. When they had these caucuses, selecting presidential and parliamentary candidates, the way out for them was to expand the electoral college. When you have few people forming the electoral college, it is easy to bribe them. But if it is opened up to a system of universal adult suffrage, how can you go into a district and pay to every single voter in the district for you to become a chief executive? So I think one of the key things we must do, we need electoral reforms, or we need reforms generally in our local governments. The system that was built is not fit for purpose. It is time that we put aside our political differences and really look at the fact that we've had a system that has run for over 30 years. Can we look ourselves in the face and say that the system we've put in place is workable and it can solve problems of today? I don't think so. There must be total reforms. We need to engage as a people. Where have we gone wrong? What can be done? I mean, even the election of MMDCs is just one part of the equation. There are several things that must be reformed if local government can be fit for purpose. As we stand down, these minor issues, I think, are just things that are emanating, things that we can see. So I believe changing the model standing orders last year cannot be the cause of what we are seeing today. Rather, this has started a long time ago. Only people were not willing to openly admit that I have received a bribe or a bribe was demanded from me. But now people feel emboldened to talk about these bribes. But it's been there all these while. And I don't think it is just a question of changing of the model standing orders. I believe that current model standing orders is rather proactive. It came out to solve critical challenges that were there. I mean, look at the fact that you can't even have presiding members throughout the tenure of an assembly. Maybe it's about time the president exercise some powers to suspend assemblies that fail continuously to elect presiding members, and perhaps even suspend assemblies that cannot confirm their MMDCs. So these are challenges that are there, but I think reforms can remove the challenges.
Right.
And we must be bold to look at these issues.
Mr. Odro, you call it outright corruption and plain corruption. What should happen if we've identified corruption in the process? Who's supposed to act?
Well, I think it's we need political leadership to start the process. But then we also need a better appreciation of our local governance system. Sometimes I get quite sad when I hear some of the commentaries, but in some cases, people may not have full grasp of the issues, but will make categorical statements. There must be reforms. I mean, if we are looking at the political side alone, we need reforms.
All right.
For instance,
I understand that the process, the reforms you're talking about would change the entire system. But I'm talking about you citing corruption. If someone has been corrupt, who should act? Is it the special prosecutor? Is it the police? Who's supposed to take action?
I'll be very happy if the special prosecutor begins to look at some of the video footages about people openly confessing that they took bribes. We need to review, even in the case of AMA, comments were made by public figures concerning winning bonuses and all the likes. I'll be very happy if the special prosecutor or the police begins to review some of these footages and see if there's an avenue for prosecuting some of these people for their own comments. It will be very good. I mean, it's a criminal act, plain and simple.
All right.
If a bribe has been paid, let the security agencies be at work.
Amonkote, so how do we deal with this corruption here and now? We've seen people come out to say that, yes, we're giving monies. Who would you expect to take action?
if a crime has been committed, we know the agency that is in charge of those who commit crime. So the police, special prosecutor, Iyoko, whoever, they are supposed to take control over this. But let me go back to the issue of the amendment. Yes, it is true that all central governments, past and present, let me put it that way, have not allowed the vetting process to take place. But what I was driving at is, before the amendment, we had this window of opportunity for assembly members to be part of the decision making. And that would have solved this problem of bribery, because the assembly members will have some opportunity to vet the nominee. And then a quick decision is taken from that vetting to the larger assembly, and then they vote on the person, either accept him or reject him. But all governments that have come and gone, they have never allowed this vetting process to take place. And so when we did this amendment to strengthen it, we are overboard. And this is exactly the results. Yes, there are people who believe that when we have a larger adult suffrage, they cannot be bribed. I'm surprised. MPs pay bribes. They have their way of doing it. Even presidents also pay bribes. I mean, let's be frank with ourselves. You can't say because if we veer into adult suffrage, there won't be bribes. People are paying. Why are MPs spending over 500,000 to become MPs? What do they do with their monies? I mean, let's be frank. You can't tell me when we move on to adult suffrage, then the problems of our bribery and all what is happening will be resolved. No. The local government system that we have, yes, it has traveled over 30 years, but we have never allowed it to go its full length. We have never allowed it.
What do you also make, what do you also make of the regional ministers leading the charge when it comes to getting confirmation for these president's nominees?
Yeah, by the structure, they are the immediate supervisors of the district assemblies. So there's nothing wrong about that. But when, I heard one making some statements, yes, the NDC assembly members, NPP assembly members, next time when it is their turn, they should return the favor. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because we know by the act that all assembly members, when they went through non-partisan election. Yes, people can be, seen with NPP or NDC, but we cannot do it in the open as we are being asked to do. It is not acceptable, because if you look at the act, if party supports a candidate, the electoral commission will have to take some decisions on that candidate. So why do we now go out to say this person is NDC assembly member and this person is NPP assembly member? Why? Why are we doing this to the system?
Mr. Odro, isn't that really the case that, yes, there are people who are there, but they support one particular party? I mean, and a lot of people have said that we should just be frank with ourselves. The local governance system we're running is partisan.
That was the argument some of us have made over the period. When people talk about, we don't want partisanship at the local level, or particularly when we say we don't want political party involvement in local governance, I find it quite a strange proposition. We have built a system at the national level where we think political parties are good enough to lead the charge for the election of presidents and the MPs. But when we come to the local level, suddenly we make political parties monsters. And then the hypocrisy in the whole thing is that we know that the political parties are very active in our local governance. Go to every assembly. you find youth organizers, even constituency chairmen of the various political parties being elected or appointed assembly members. So what do we say of that? Is that not partisan? The appointment even of the MMDC. Can anybody tell me any appointee, a nominee MMDC who is from the NDC? Virtually every single one of them is a card-bearing member of the NPP in the current regime. So the system itself is partisan, but we are pretending it is not. So I am not worried about the comments of the references to political parties by any minister or the regional minister for that matter. But I'm worried about the fact that we are pretending partisanship or political party activism or leadership in local governance is wrong. It is not. I mean, I'm yet to be proven by anyone that in any particular country, they chose a system of local governance or a system of governance, which is partisans at the national level. But when it comes to the local level, we make the political parties monsters. They become suddenly divisive. They become suddenly unacceptable. I think we must be very fair to ourselves as a people. We've practiced the system for over 30 years. It has simply not worked. We must be bold. We must be come together and look for better alternatives. But what exists, I don't think from where I sit, is fit for purpose.
Now, what are the 5 things you'd want seen changed about our current local governance system, Mr. Drew?
Well, we need political reforms. That is obviously the first thing. But we also need to look at the fiscal side, that is financing of local governance. We need to look at it thoroughly because it's one area that seems not to be working for our assemblies. The assemblies are overly dependent on the 5% district assembly common fund. But for me, if you ask me, even the 5% is woefully inadequate. We also need assemblies to work on their IGF mobilization. That's internally generated fund mobilization. If we don't do that, it will not work. We also need to look at the whole system of appointments within the assembly setup. That is, how do we recruit people into the assembly? If somebody is not good in one assembly, should that person just be transferred to another place or be sacked? Because if you are not fit to work in Lejokuku, you mustn't be fit to work in AMB. So we need to also look at those aspects. We must also strengthen when it comes to things to do with the physical developments in our local governance, because we've given assemblies the power to lead the charge when it comes to fiscal development in our areas. But we don't want to give them, in law, they have the power, but we don't want to give them the strength to actually enforce some of these things. We see haphazard development all around us, but the assemblies are not that strong to insist on some of the right things being done. So I believe these are some key areas we must work on. And finally, one area that is killing assemblies is to do with their engagement with the private sector. The capacity of the assemblies to engage the private sector in various contract administration is so serious that assemblies are dying because of all kinds of judgment debts and all manner of agreements that are made either for them or they make it themselves, but they do it so badly. We need to look at all these things. Otherwise, our local governance system will not do anything meaningful for us.
Ms. Amonkote, what would you want to see changed about our current local governance system? Hello, Mr. Amonkote.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. a lot of people talk about adult suffrage, like getting partisan politics into our local government system. I don't support it. I still believe we can work it out by, for example, engaging the president, engaging the Public Services Commission to assist him in selection of MMDCs. Because creating partisan politics environment and making the whole thing look as if there is a booty that we have to go and share at the assemblies. These are the problems that are like eating the assemblies as we speak now. If you listen to some top party executives, we will want loyal members to be MMDCs. This position is not an elected position per se. So if the president is supposed to appoint chief executive for Ghana Water, why don't we bring the party people into it and then everybody, we make it political. But we select it through Public Services Commission and other agencies. So in the same breath, we are looking at chief executives, district chief executives, not mayors, because mayors are supposed to be elected into office. So if we want a chief executive, we want a chief executive who has some technical knowledge, he has some upright human behavior, his financial management is on top, he understands why he's being sent to that office, not any political animal, you know. So if we create the political monster around the local government system and then turn around and say we have politicized it, I'm surprised at people who want to do that. Look at the books. There is nowhere written that president should nominate political party members into that office. No. So it is the decision from central government to politicize it. Now, if you politicize it and then you turn around to call it a bad name, I don't support it. Allow the system to work. Get Public Services Commission to assist you in the nomination. And then assembly members be allowed to do the vetting. Then we will be free to go. Yes, other countries, there are so many models in the whole world. In Africa, other African countries, there are partisan local government system. You can't tell me they are doing better than Ghana. You can't tell me that. You can't defend it. So why don't we appreciate what we have?
Can we have good examples? That will help. Let us not make it so open. Which are the African countries? Let's have good examples that these African countries are practicing this and it is working. Then we can learn from that.
That they are practicing ours. I am saying they are partisan politics inclined, and they are not better than what we are practicing. That is what I'm saying. Let's look at the output. We are looking at service delivery. We are looking at upliftment of the people in the socio-economic development. Let's take any other country and see whether because they are partisan politics inclined, they are doing better. That is what I'm saying. No. Go to Uganda. They vote for their mayors or MMDCs. What is the difference? What have they achieved that we have not achieved in our local government system?
They are doing it very, very well. I would want you to revise your notes on Uganda. They are doing extremely well with their local governments. We are nowhere near them. Please, let us have the facts, because we bandy around issues we may not be aware of. What's happening? You are even interested in service delivery. In terms of service delivery, local governments in Uganda are doing way, way better. They've even moved beyond service delivery, and now they are looking at local economic development. And we are here thinking that we are doing so well. We are doing absolutely nothing here.
No. So far as I am concerned, I have the Commonwealth, how do you call it, a handbook here. I have followed local government all over Africa. I don't get that differences. The issue here is political central government are holding onto the practice, and they won't allow the system to work. So you don't turn around and blame the system that we are practicing. Let's allow the central government to allow the system to work. That is all what I'm saying.
All right, so having talked about all the corruption issues and the challenges we are having with the system, but let's look at some of the people who have made it so far. I think if you're taking some of the regions, you tend to realize that, yes, despite all the challenges, we've gotten some people through. And there are some significant victories, you can say. We take the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, for instance, and the fact that we now have the first female mayor. What do you make of that? I'll take your thoughts to conclude. I'll start with you, Amon.
Yes. You see, this is the first time we are having a lady. Politically, let's say it's okay.
But will it make a difference?
Her area. Again?
Will it make a difference having a female?
No, she has three very volatile constituencies. I mean, Udododiodo and Ablekuma South. Her position now, a lot of people, when issues come up, then they say AMA. A lot of issues come up, they say AMA. AMA is now 3 sub-metros, let's say 3 constituencies. We've taken away almost all the other areas away from AMA. So listening to her, she's now going to make Accra clean again. And I ask myself, which part of Accra are we talking about? Because your jurisdiction is Odododiodo, Ablekuma South, and Okankwe South. The rest, you don't control it. So I don't know how some of these things can be fixed. We have created
All right, we seem to have lost Amon Kote there, but I'll come to you, Mr. Odro. So, hello, Amon. All right, I'll come to you, Mr. Odro. So, yes, we have the first female mayor or MCU for Accra. Does it make any difference at all?
Yeah, I hope it does, because I am very, very unhappy with the number of women we have in these roles. I have a strong belief that women are less corrupt. That when it comes to issues to do with local governance, I mean, if you want to talk about health, education, water, sanitation, women play critical roles. So having a woman as a chief executive, even for Accra, should be a plus for us. And we need more. I believe we need a lot more. The current number, 38, is woefully inadequate. I am also praying that the chief executive succeeds, because we need to make a stronger case for more women to be appointed to these important positions so that they can bring on board that feminine side to leadership that we seem to be losing out so much. Because if we have women who are very good in what they do, it will come to show that over 50% of the population are also adequately represented. Then we must also support the women to succeed. I mean, if you look at the appointments that came, looking at broadly all the women that have been appointed, even with her in Greater Accra, we saw what happened in Odododiodio. People were out on the streets burning ties because a woman has been appointed in place of somebody they would have preferred. And this is not acceptable. We must rather support the women. And I believe that with a level of experience in politics, in her last, just a year ago, she was a deputy regional minister for Greater Accra, she should have a grasp of the situation. I would like to see her as the chief executive of AMA, galvanizing all the other chief executives in the region. We have this greater Accra, the Gamma area, that is the
area.
Accra metropolitan area, and even our local governance act requires assemblies to work together, because when you have common challenges, you work together.
All right.
So I would hope that she will use her position to bring on board all her other colleagues, so that together they can fashion out common strategies to overcome the common challenges they have.
All right. Thank you very much for your time here on the show. Frederick Ejakun Odro is a Dean, Studies and Research at the Institute of Local Government. And I also had Amon Kote, who's been an assembly member before, and he's a local governance analyst. He's been involved in it quite a significant number of years, I would say a number of decades. Thank you to you both for joining us for the conversation. We're taking a break here on the AM show. When we come back, we're talking housing. Do stay tuned in.